welcome to another episode of the Atlantic CIL podcast. I'm your host, Donald Campbell, the director of the Atlantic CIL. I'm here with a new friend of mine that I just met a few weeks ago, Chris Hodgens, and he's going to tell us about his journey acquiring a disability and how that changed his life. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Donald. How you doing?
All right, so this is going to be great. So I think we were talking a little bit before we start recording. Let's start a little bit about, give us a brief history of Chris, and then you had your stroke, and then how that impacted your life. So just start wherever you're comfortable with, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I actually was born in Alabama, moved to Philadelphia. I married with 2 kids. Back in 2010, I had a stroke. The stroke basically, put me out of commission. It laid me up in the hospital for, 3 months. I was in a wheelchair, the whole 9 yards. I had to start from square one, from, learning how to speak again to learning how to walk again. And it's been a long, hard road, but here I am, back at work and trying every day to live my life to the fullest.
Yeah. So how old were you when you had the stroke?
40.
Wow. So that must have been some really unexpected. And so, how did it change your life? Like you're talking about, having to learn to do everything again. Talk a little bit about that, just how your life is different now.
How my life is different. Well, gosh. It's been a roller coaster, really. It's quite literally, you ride the roller coaster down. You're in the bottom. You look around. You're not sure where you're gonna go from here. You're not sure if you're ever gonna, work again or even participate in life. Basically, I was in a very dark place for a very long time, and that is where I can see, organizations like yourself can really make a difference in people's lives, and that's why I agreed to do this, because we really need more of that.
That's a great way to put it. Like that, I'm sure there was a lot of feeling of when you're just starting out, how is any of this going to work? How am I going to go back to any semblance of my old life? I know I've talked to consumers who've had experience like yours, and it's it can be very frustrating and very draining emotionally, because it's hard to get there. Were you married before you had the stroke?
Yes, I've been married for 21 years to my wife, Mary. My daughter is Savannah, and my son is named Will.
Awesome, that's great. And what was the impact like on your family? Did everybody have to adjust to sort of now you having a disability and having to learn how to live with the ramifications of that? Did that change at all?
Well, my wife has never been one to coddle me or baby me in any way. She actually just, she was always there if I needed her help, but she was always one to say, hey, we've got to let him try it and see if he succeeds, and then if he fails, then we'll be there to pick him up. And that's basically what she did as far as everything, from walking up the stairs to applying for a job to doing the Social Security. So I did my own Social Security advocacy. I didn't even hire a lawyer. I don't know how smart that was, but I actually did end up getting Social Security for a while, and that was a key in me making it through. So Social Security. Yeah,
I think that's a great point, and props to your wife. That's a good wife. She had the right approach, which was, of course, she's there to help you, but you don't want to do everything for you, because then you'll never learn how to do it yourself. And it's okay. I always say that people with disabilities have the right to fail too. Not everything has to be successful just because you have a disability. It's okay to fail just like everybody else and learn from it. That's how you learn to adjust and learn what works and what doesn't. And I think that for when a lot of people are too overprotective and patronizing of people with disabilities, we don't want them to get hurt or it's dangerous, it can be really counterproductive, because it really zaps your self-esteem. If your wife kept saying to you, no, you can't do that, or no, you can't do that, then it would be like, oh, I guess I can't.
Yeah, no, she never did that. Yeah. Yeah, no,
That's
she was
great.
never the no person. She was always like, "Well, try and see."
Yeah. Well, talk about applying to Social Security, because that's something a lot of our listeners deal with, and talk about that journey.
Okay. Sure, sure. It has been a journey. I'll say this much. This is actually not the first time I've tried going back to work. I tried a few times. In 2016, I found a job on LinkedIn for e-driving, which was an interesting company that sold applications on your phone, like applications in order to drive. And they sold it to companies like large pest control companies, anybody that had a large fleet of vehicles. Anyway, long story short, I got laid off from that job because they didn't want to have an inside sales force anymore. I had to go back and reapply for Social Security. And the first time I applied, I was still very affected. And all of the Social Security folks had to be extremely patient with me, because I would sometimes just pause for maybe a minute or so, trying to think of a word. And I can imagine how frustrating it could be, for somebody to try to communicate to somebody. And I had to go to, obviously, the in-person route was better than trying to have it done over the phone. So
Right.
I spent a lot of days in the local Social Security office and waiting. But that was pleasant. The people over there are very nice. And at no time did they say, you're not eligible. I never had to fight that fight. All I had to do is say, "Look at me, I'm disabled." It's like, I can demonstrate for you if you want.
Yes.
But and like that. But and I had to go to a doctor to get basically a certified stroke victim after I first had a stroke, and I haven't had to go back to a doctor for the Social Security benefit since. So that was nice. But it does take a long time with the bureaucracy. Just the sheer paperwork of it is a little bit frustrating, and it could be better. But they're trying. They're the federal government. Right. They're trying their best. I get it. But there was a few months in between jobs, like when I got fired from my job. There was like probably a 3-month lag in getting my benefits turned back on, and so I've had to go on and off benefits. 3 times.
Right, I've had similar experiences. Yep.
Yep. And I had the e-driving job, and then I got a job at Harrah's, being a surveillance officer. But that job went away because of COVID. Hey, everybody thought that we were going to get this without mentioning COVID, but I had to go back home and wait for COVID to work itself out. Yes. And then now, this is my third job, and I love it because I get to be out in the field and talking to people. And as you know, that's the best thing of all. Like, inside sales was not for me because there was no people there, no interaction. Right. And sometimes the nonverbal cues of communication are kind of like what gets me over the hump as far as trying to think of words and things. And I still think that I could use some improvement in some therapy as far as speech is concerned. But most people are patient enough to wait for me to finish and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, long story short, did I answer your question? I don't know.
No, you said that was great. You said a lot there. Okay. And I think that one of the things I took away, and I always say this to people we work with too, is who are applying for Social Security, because they get frustrated because, as you know, it takes a long time. And sometimes you get denied. More often than not, you get denied. And what you said there is you kind of got to just submit yourself to the bureaucracy and just go through the process. And I know it's very frustrating. And I always say, because sometimes people get frustrated at us, I'm like, this is not the system I would design if I was, in charge. It's just the way it is. So you can either put your energy towards complaining about it or put your energy towards getting your benefits and going through the process. So I just want people to note that lesson, that it's kind of the way it is. And of course, there's a way to make changes. Call your senator, call your congressman, vote for who you want to vote for and tell them about your issues. There's a lot of things we can do to reform the system, but just the actual act of getting the benefits, if you want the benefits, you have to go through the process. You got to give them all the paperwork they want. You got to go to all the appointments they want. And, and also you don't have to do anything, but don't be surprised when you don't get your benefits.
You don't get the benefits, right, exactly.
Because they don't knock on your door and say, hey, Chris, I heard you had a stroke.
Yeah, you want some money? Yeah,
your benefits, it's not how it works. And I'm not saying it's fair or unfair. Again, like I tell people, it's not, I didn't design it. Like you said, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just the system. And the people that get it are the people like you who just say, all right, I'll go to every appointment you want me to. All right, I'll go to that interview. All right, I'll get you that paperwork. And then at the end of the road, you'll hopefully get it. So I just wanted to I think that's really important. And I also love your point about, you tried some jobs and stuff happened, maybe it wasn't the right fit. And then you found the right fit now, and we'll talk about that because I think that's a real important lesson too. Because sometimes I'll hear people with disability say, well, what if I take this job and it doesn't work out? I'm like, then you took a job and it doesn't work out. Like people without disabilities take jobs that don't work out all the time. So
all the time, sure.
It's just a part of life. So talk about your new job. Talk about what you enjoy about it. You talk about a little bit about how you enjoy the interaction of it. How long have you been at your current job, and what exactly do you do?
Well, I don't want to turn this into a commercial, but I started back in October, and my job is to basically interact with all the people that can bring new business opportunities to the company that I work for, and to join lead sharing groups, which, as you know, I have. I think we can mention BNI. BNI is awesome.
Yes.
BNI rocks.
Yeah, you can name the company.
I prefer not to. How about
all right? Okay.
But yeah, BNI is great. A great organization. I can see myself belonging to it, and for a long time, it is
great people.
Well, it's great because I get practice through saying my sales pitch, because as everybody knows, a salesman needs to practice his pitch constantly. And it's great to have that built-in practice every week in front of people that and, right. And you're constantly getting that feedback saying, hey, Chris, you're doing good. You're getting your point across to people. And then, when I leave and then I go to my appointments, I can go with that much more confidence. Or a new idea that I picked up at BNI. New ideas are key, to talk to other business people and try to work ways of working their companies into your conversations, and then hopefully you can figure out ways to benefit your company and the company of your friend, and go from there and say, hey, let's try to make this a win-win-win situation, And so that's kind of like the fun part of it. And that's what I've been trying to do lately. And they want me, I want to join some more organizations to maybe branch out to other parts of the South Jersey region. And my region goes from Point Pleasant, New Jersey, down to Cape May, New Jersey, and then out to Deptford, New Jersey. So it's kind of like the triangle there.
Yes.
But it's basically the South Jersey region. That's where you'll find me driving around in my duck car. I don't know if you've seen my car, but it is hilarious to see me driving, because I have ducks and stuff all over my car. It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And what has been like the biggest reward of this job and also the biggest challenge? What do you think, kind of at both ends of the spectrum?
Oh, gosh. The challenges are, the same old as far as having people say no, but that comes with every job, basically. And you're just trying to, help as many people as you can. And you say, all right, well, then you don't need help, or, they'll say, no, thank you. And they're pretty polite. Challenges as far as, You know what? A big challenge has been communication, actually. This is key, and this comes with the new thing of cell phones that we have the whole text messages thing. That
Yes,
is, I hate text message. I do it because I have to,
right.
but it leaves too much to interpretation as
Right,
far
it
as the
does.
tone of voice and everything like that. So I think that hopefully is we're not done with advance of communication as far as the next version of text messaging. I can't wait for it to come out because I hate the current version.
Yeah, I get what you mean, especially when you're trying to do sales. It can be, I'm sure. I mean, there are probably some helpful aspects of it, but like to get the nuance of conversation, to have like a serious conversation and get the feel of how somebody is reacting, texting is like not the best.
Exactly, and you really get too much. People read too much into it.
Right, right,
But
right.
don't get me started. I mean, that's it's my biggest pet peeve for a lot of reasons, and it affects many parts of my life. But at the end of the day, you just have to say, you know what? It comes with this is what
It
comes
comes
with
with it, yeah.
technology, and you just have
Yeah.
to let things
'Cause-
just roll off your back and just brush them aside. And when I have a good day, I celebrate it and I let everybody know I'm having a great day. And then
Yes.
when I have a bad day, I don't let it follow me to the
Yeah.
next day. You have to start every day as if, all right, now it's a new day. We forget about what happened yesterday. We're starting off new today. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that. I think that's a really important point, just that having that resilience, because I do sometimes work with people who, get stuck in the last day, and it can be very self-defeating. So talk about that. How do you adapt that mindset, and why is that helpful? Because I totally agree with that. Talk a little bit about
Well, I mean, why it's helpful is obviously it gets you through, and it turns your whole outlook around, and it makes you a better person to be around.
right,
But why it makes it better is not as important as what you have to keep in mind. You have to keep in mind like what affects you, the effects of the bad thing that happened yesterday. You have to remember that as days go on, the effects of it only reside in you, and you have to just let it go. And if it doesn't affect you, if you don't let it affect you, after a while, it's gone or it's
right,
greatly reduced. And you don't have to let it define you. You just say, look, that happened yesterday. I'm going to try to make the opposite happen today. And let's see if what happens. I mean, you can't stop trying, or else it's not possible to have a good day. And
I agree.
nobody wants to be like that, right?
Right. And I think it's just people spend a lot of energy. You can't get after it happened, you can't stop it. It happened. So you can either move forward or you can get stuck in the bad thing that happened. And that's not to say that people don't have the right to feel the way they feel or to get through their frustrations but I would say like you can't get trapped in it. Sometimes I'll say, people get kind of stuck in a loop where they're just stuck in that moment in that time. And
Mhm.
eventually you need to like move on and find a way, even if not to forget it, like you don't forget your stroke. It happened, you can talk
Oh
about it.
yeah,
But you don't live every day going, man, what would have happened if I didn't have that stroke and said
right, right,
it was, I
exactly.
could have been doing this or that, or
Uh,
what,
I could have been president by now.
yeah, right, right. And, because it's the stroke happened. The stroke's not going to go away. Not going
Right.
to not have happened if you just don't accept it more. So I just think that that's a really important point and something I notice in especially with people with disabilities who are able to navigate a lot of stuff, is just there's a sense of resilience of like, okay, I'm just gonna find a way through this issue, or that was a bad day. Let me try tomorrow and see what happens. We're talking about the Business International Network in Atlantic County, which we both love. How did you get involved in the BNI in Atlantic County? Did somebody refer you? How did that come about?
Yes, Connie Mung, actually, real estate extraordinaire.
Yes.
I was trying to do my, call up people and, sell them my service. And on my third call to Connie, she brought she suggested that I come along. And she didn't actually have to try very hard. I was like, yes. As soon as she offered, I was like, that sounds awesome. So, basically that was it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess Connie will probably tell you, that I was an easy sell on
Yes.
joining the group because, obviously I see the value, and I've never not been convinced to do BNI. So, that's basically where it started. I called up Connie, and then Connie said, come with me. You gotta join this group. And there you
Yeah,
go.
I think that's a great lesson too. I always talk about, the importance of networking, especially for people in general and people with disabilities too, because that's how you get a lot of opportunities. So when somebody asks you to join a group, I know sometimes it's like it can be scary. It's like I don't know these people that well, and it's a new environment. But like you also learn that it's a great opportunity. You meet a lot of great people. So I
Mhm.
just think that's a great lesson as well. I want to ask you, how do you like Alabama versus New Jersey? Which one do you prefer?
Oh, don't get me started.
Mm.
I'll sing about Alabama if you want. I love Alabama. I love. I went to Auburn University, or Eagle. All right. I love Auburn. I love Auburn football. I love everything about it. I wish I could spend more time in Alabama. My mom and my family are down there in Atlanta, but yeah, I love Alabama.
How did you end up in New Jersey? Was it your wife? How did you end up?
No, my job at the time, actually, I don't know how much time we got here, but I love talking about my past when it comes to like my resume and stuff. I love talking about that stuff. So at any time that you get tired of listening to me, just give me the
No,
give
you're
me the
fine.
time.
Go.
So after I graduated, I went to work for Hormel Foods. You probably heard of Hormel Foods, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I went to work for Hormel Foods in Atlanta, the Tucker, Georgia plant. I was supposed to work in operations. Well, I did work in operations management. That's my degree, actually, operations management, and that operating a manufacturing line basically. And I was in charge of manufacturing, the labeling department and the different departments. And I went around the plant, and they sent me to canning school and all that kind of stuff. And it was an awesome job because you get to see how everything is made, and it was just fascinating. And I worked third shift, so I went in at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and finished up at like midnight. But I loved it, and after a time, I got a little bit bored with it, and there was an opportunity that a friend of mine from college told me about, this company called Altel, Alltel. And Altel was in the midst of opening a branch a month, and they were basically training all of their salespeople to open up different locations. Altel did telecommunications, networking products, and they were a supply division of Altel Telephone Company. Altel
Right.
was a large telephone company from a wireless perspective. Now they've since been sold to AT&T, but excuse me, that just tells you where we were at the time, because at the time the government had just deregulated the Ma Bell companies. And they've said, hey, we've got to break up this monopoly basically.
Right.
And from breaking up the monopoly, it unleashed a torrent of business owners. I mean, it was crazy how much. I mean, it was wonderful to see, actually. Every guy that worked for the telephone company and his brother were opening trucker. We called them trunkers, and they would go out and sell telephone key systems to businesses. and then we would sell them all their telecommunications supply networking products. So in that job, they hired me in Georgia, and then I opened up the Jacksonville, Florida location. We opened it up as like a two-person location. I grew that to about $3 million in revenue a year. And then a year later, I was tapped to become the new manager of the Philadelphia location, which was like a central hub, and it was a much bigger location. And they called it Philly, but they actually had their warehouse in Pensacola, New Jersey. So I lived up in Bucks County, Philadelphia. So that's where the move came in from the south to the north. I've got to move to Bucks County, but obviously I was going to take it because it was a much bigger, much and I think now like Jacksonville, Florida, like that sounds really good when it gets really cold on those cold Jersey mornings.
Yes.
I moved away from Jacksonville, Florida to come to New Jersey. But I met my wife, so that's good. And
it evens out, less warm weather, but you make the love of your life. So there you go.
Yeah. But I mean, so that gets me to about the year I got married in 2002. Oh gosh, I've got a really awesome story for you. I love to tell it. Okay, cool. So, all right. So it's 2001. All right. September 2001.
Okay.
All right. And I lived in Haddon Heights, New Jersey. I had just bought my own house. I was single, and I was doing great with Alltel. And I was on track to become, the top salesperson in all of Alltel. And I got tapped to go to the sales incentive trip. So this is the trip where they take all their top salespeople and to say thank you. And the president liked to go fishing, so he came up with the idea of going to Canada, to Reindeer Lake, which is a place in Canada near the Arctic Circle. And they've got fish there. They're like 3 feet long and like 40 pounds. They're freshwater trout and pike that will just fight you until the death. From getting them in the boat is like a chore and a half. And then so every boat had it was 2 men in a boat, in a motorboat, and then they had a guide, and then the guide would know where the good fishing spots were on this lake. And that lake was so big that you would leave in the morning, and then you would take a break for lunch on the beach, and then the guide would actually field strip and cook one of the fish that you had caught that morning on the lake for lunch. It was awesome. Awesome. I mean, fresh fish, forget about it. I mean, catch it, fry it, eat it. That is so good. And so anyway, so we're about halfway through the with this trip, and we're coming back and having dinner, and we're all telling fish stories about hey, what I caught was 39 inches. I caught one that was 42 inches, and blah blah blah. And we had all these pictures and this stuff. And then guess what happens? 9/11.
Okay. Yes.
9/11 happened, and we had a TV up there, but we had cell phones, but I think it was Blackberries at the time.
Yes.
Or no, it was probably before Blackberries, but I think it was one of those brick phones. But anyway, they had phones, but not like we weren't connected the way we are today. But we had some video of it, and we were aware that what had happened, and we were watching the news as it came across the wires and everything like that, and then so the whole mood of the trip changed. I was thinking of hey, and I'm sorry, I actually joined the Air Force. I forgot to tell you that part. I joined the Air Force when I started college, and it was only the reserves. So I only went like 2 weeks or 1 weekend a
Right.
month, and 2 weeks during the summer. But I had gone through and done my 6 years, and I think I had chosen to get out of the Air Force back a few years back because of I moved to Philly and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, I was thinking about, man, I've got to get back in the military. I want to go and join the fight.
Right.
But anyway, so and we were stuck up there for another couple of days to because we had to stop. We couldn't get back because it was like two plane rides and a puddle jumper just to get there. So we were stuck for like an extra 2 days, I think. And when we flew back, that was a nail biter of a flight, boy.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. And people don't like, maybe people who are younger don't remember. And I was young at the time. I was in 6th grade, but I can tell you exactly where I was, what period I was in when it happened. Like the world really like just stood still for a good, it really just took the wind out of everything. And that's why Chris can recall exactly where he was and what he was doing. And it really, if you weren't there for it, it was one of those moments that you just never forget. And it's like people sometimes cliche say like, "Oh, the world stood still," but you really just it like changed everything in that moment. It just like paused everything and just people's mindset completely changed. So that is I'm not sure. It is a great story in terms of a memorable one. Of course, 9/11 was not great. It was very sad.
No, it's very sad.
Yeah, that you brought me back to some memories too. I just remember being in gym class and kind of hearing the talk from teachers and not really understanding because I'm 12 and the 90s were kind of a really fun time and an innocent time. And I would say that was like the moment where I realized that the world is not innocent, that it can be a scary place, and that not everything in the world wishes people well. So I still remember getting off the bus with my dad. I was like, how did those planes accidentally fly into those buildings? And my dad was like, no, that was not. Like it didn't even cross my mind that could not be an accident. So it was just, you're taking me back, Chris, and the world can change on a dime. And I think we've learned that with 9/11, with the financial crisis, with COVID, is you really don't know one day to the next. So like you said, you just gotta kind of enjoy the ride the best you can and make the best out of it. And I'm sure I think that's what you have done. And that's what I want people to take away from this interview is you've just kind of found a way to roll with the punches and adjust your life. And we'll wrap it up here. Do you have anything closing you want to say or anything you want to plug? Anything at all? Here's your
No, that's it. I had a great time. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris. You were a great interview. I give your pitch and your communication skills an A. So you were awesome. And thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.